live Q&A, Chasing Evil podcast. Today, as our guest, we have Derek Swenson. Hold on one moment. I'm just getting something. We have a little technical issue, perhaps. Okay, I'm hoping not. But today we have Derek Swenson, who is a recently retired from the U.S. Marshal Service after a 20-year career. He has been in such places as Knoxville, Tennessee, Atlanta, and Nashville.
Correct.
Welcome, Derek Swenson.
Good to be here.
Okay, hopefully your connection will get a little bit better. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to talk about a whole host of issues, a whole host of things, a whole host of issues. Just as I have said in one of the promos, no golf. If we can avoid the topic of golf, I think we'll all be happier. I've already suggested that Derek seek therapy because he is way too into it. He called me after he left the Marshals and says, "I got a job at a golf course," and I like he just became president of the world, and I get to play golf all day long.
No stress.
And I get to hit golf balls all day long, and I'm saying, okay, I'm sorry for you. So here's the deal. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Chat. I can see your chats if you're on Facebook or YouTube. Then just chat. Put your questions in the chat, and I should be able to see them, and we will go from there. So Derek, you were, toward the, for a lot of your career, explained sex offense investigator. How is that? How does that work in the Marshal Service?
Back around 2010 or so, the Marshal Service created a position that was the sex offender investigations coordinator. We had a couple of different jobs that entailed, and part of it was chasing fugitive sex offenders who have crossed state lines and did not register what they're supposed to be, and that made it a federal offense. In addition to that, we also helped out our local partner agencies, the local sheriff's offices and police departments, with compliance operations.
Okay, and Is there any? What kinds of guys are you looking for? Mostly in the Marshal Service. What are federal offenses, or do you guys look after state offenses as well when you're doing fugitive hunts for sex offenders? What are you seeing most of the time?
Mostly state and local. It's mostly guys who are convicted in the state system, and they've traveled across state lines and have not registered.
So what kinds of crimes are you seeing?
Rapes, sexual assaults, sexual batteries, rape of a child, child pornography, any of those things that they have been convicted for. They've had to be convicted for us to look for them.
And of the three places you've been, would you say the collection of sex offenders, the crimes, it's pretty similar, or is Atlanta a little bit different from Knoxville, and which is different from Nashville?
I didn't do this job in Atlanta, but I have been to other districts. I went to North Carolina for a couple of weeks and helped out with a compliance op over there. I would say they're very, very similar. The only thing different is the language of the charging documents. Like, for example, Florida has a lewd and lascivious charge. That's kind of their catch-all. So it may be worded different, but it's going to be essentially the same crimes we have here.
Okay. And when have they owe it for 20 years? Have they been doing compliance ops, or was that something that was developed that was relatively new to say, okay, guys have served their time, and who's checking on them to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
That was brand new to the Marshal Service. So whenever the sex offender investigations coordinator position got brought about, we were instructed as part of our policy is we had to do a minimum of 2 compliance operations a year in the East District. We tried to do a little bit more than that in East Tennessee. We usually did 3 or 4 a year. but yeah,
And
that
and
was
the
brand
purpose
new.
of I mean, obviously it's self-explanatory, but explain the purpose of the set. What are you trying to achieve? What are you looking for when you're doing these operations? What's the purpose?
So a lot of the sheriff's offices and police departments, and this is not a knock on any of them, a lot of them are very shorthanded. A lot of their sex offender registry people are admin people, so they're not police officers or sheriff's deputies. So they rely on the sex offender to come in and report to them, either every quarter or every year, depending on what their offense is. So they would come in and report. So a lot of times they would come in and report, "Hey, I'm living at this address," and they're not really living at that address. They're living with a girlfriend who's got kids, and they're not supposed to be there. So the purpose was for us to go out with them as a force multiplier, as a backup agency, and help them go physically check every residence where they're living at.
Right. And
And
so
that's to make sure they're living in the right place, and to make sure they're following the TBI laws. What's set forth by the TBI, uh, they have to comply with that.
Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So what are
Yes.
the things, but more specific, what are the things you're looking for? They can't live with kids that are not their own?
If their crime was against a child, they cannot live with children unless they're their biological children. And they can't live with their biological children if their crime was against their biological children.
Right. Okay.
So
And
that's one of the things we're
what
looking for.
wait, say that again. Your connection is not so great. You know what? I'm gonna suggest, Eric, for 1 second that you leave the chat and come back into it because your connection is not great.
Okay, let me X out of this.
All right. Got to upgrade that that internet, which just leaves me. So I can't sing. I don't dance as well as I used to. So that doesn't. It's not very helpful until he comes back in. But if you have any questions already, the stuff we're getting into, I'd like to go into more specifically. What can't sex offenders do? What are they looking for? I didn't realize. Obviously, it's pretty obvious. You can't be around or live with children that are not your own. That makes a lot of sense. So we will ask. One question just came in. Thank you very much. And hopefully Derek will be back in a second. And I said the golf thing because he's obsessed with golf, and I just can't reach that level of excitement. I don't play golf, and I'm not excited about the prospect of hitting a ball slightly longer, slightly straighter. So I know I'm revealing a lot about myself, and it's not very complimentary. Hey, are you back?
All right, I think I'm back.
All right, excellent. Now you want the. There you
Trying
go.
to figure out this. How's that? It's all crooked on my end.
No, you're good. You're good.
Am I good?
Yeah, we just need to frame you a little bit better so we get your whole face.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up on my end.
Okay, now you're in. Now you're
in.
Yep.
All right.
So one of the questions was if they have biological children, how is that allowed in the order? If it's against their own children, do they get to see their children, or are they barred from even having contact?
As far as I know, they're barred from having any contact with them. If the crime was against their own children, they cannot see those kids, and the kids definitely cannot live with them.
Okay. What else are you looking for in terms of these operations when you go out there? What are some telltale signs that things might not be right?
Well, if their crime was against a child, obviously, if we see any kind of play equipment, kids' toys, kids' clothing, that kind of thing, we try to step inside the house, or when the sheriff's office makes initial contact, we're there as a backup, and just talk to them inside the house. We have a form that they fill out, make sure their tags are around their car, make sure we have all their email addresses. So while they're getting that information, we're just kind of looking in the living room to see. And obviously, if we see a kid, then that's an immediate go to jail.
Right. And so, but you don't have a warrant to get into their house. When you go and check on them, they let you in voluntarily.
Most of the time, yes, almost every time.
And how often do the people who let you in voluntarily have things that you shouldn't see?
I'm going to guess about 30%.
Really? No, knowing,
Yes.
do they just not think you'll see it?
Well, if we see something, the sheriff's office or the police department, whoever we're with, they will ask them to sign a consent to search form. And the majority of the time, they actually sign it.
Okay. Right. I remember I went out on this operation with you guys, and I remember one time we went to a pond, and there was a trailer right near a pond where all the kids would come to fish.
Yeah.
And there was play equipment, and you were like, okay, this is a massive red flag. You can't. This is just set up for kids to come down here.
Exactly. And that's what they did. The people in the neighborhood let their kids go down there and play on that equipment, and go fishing in the pond. So, technically, the guy was not in violation. There were no kids living there. He was probably skirting the line a little bit by having play equipment there. But yeah, that was definitely a red flag. And it kind of goes back to parenting a little bit. Know who your neighbors are. There's several websites you can look on and see who the sex offenders are in your neighborhood and in your area. You can give it a radius and it'll search for you.
Right. Is there any kind of a type of person that people may notice, or there's any kind of behavior that they exhibit more often than not?
No, not really. I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, I hate to generalize, but I might as well ask.
Yeah, I mean, not from the outside looking in. A lot of people that we go check on are, they're married, they have families, but they're sex offenders. They're on the sex offender registry. So, yeah, I mean, it's like the old saying. It's hard. Don't judge a book by its cover because you never know.
Right, and there's certain things they can and can't do on the internet, right?
Yes, and that's mainly if you're on probation. So, if you're on probation or parole, and you have to check in with your probation and parole officer, because the state of Tennessee is way different than a lot of other states. For example, Georgia, they only register at the sheriff's office. That's it. Even if you're on probation, you just register at the sheriff's office. Tennessee, you register. It can be with your city police department if you live in the city, sheriff's office if you live in the county, and probation if you're on probation. So you have 3 or 4 different entities that you may have to. One of those 3 you have to register with, depending on where you live at. So if you're on probation, you have a whole nother set of rules in addition to the TBI rules.
And so, oftentimes you might see somebody was arrested for failure to register, and failure to register doesn't seem like it's that big a deal. Just to be arrested for failing to register, but you were telling me it can be a little bit more sinister than that. And if you're a sex offender, you don't forget to register.
No, you don't forget. You have to register. And I've interviewed hundreds of these sex offenders. And overwhelming, it seems like the number one reason why a lot of them don't register is they don't like the embarrassment. They don't want to be on the registry because everybody sees their name on it. They have a hard time getting a job if they're on the registry. So that seemed to be the number one reason. The whole humiliation and embarrassment of it.
Right. And it can also mean that they're up to some nefarious activity.
Yes. Matter of fact, and you and I've talked about this case. If you Google Ben Shook, he was one of our missing kid cases. He was a 2-time sex offender out of Georgia, and came to Tennessee and did not register. And nobody was really looking for him. He was out of Northwest Georgia. Nobody was really looking for him, but there was a warrant for failure to register. But he came to Tennessee, met a 14-year-old girl online, and he was probably 40, somewhere in there. He even got a Tennessee driver's license, but he never registered as a sex offender. and then he took her, and we chased him for 16 days and ended up finding him, and he got life in prison.
Right. So it could mean a lot. So we went on this this compliance op, and I must say it was a little bit surprising because you guys brought a lot of assets to that. Not only a lot of cops to go check on these guys' houses, but you also brought an attack canine and a bloodhound.
Yes.
And
yes, because you just never know. You just never know. You never know we're going to get into a situation where, somebody's not where they're supposed to be, and the sheriff's officer will usually get a warrant pretty quickly for that. So we go check the house, the guy's not there, the family or whoever says, no, he's not been here in 6 months. They'll normally get a warrant that day. So then, we kick it into a whole different gear and trying to find the guy. So you just never know. The canines are invaluable. And we've used bloodhounds from different agencies over the years for tracking people, and they're just fantastic if we have to track them, especially like somewhere like we were out in Loudoun County. It's pretty rural out there.
Yeah, it was very rural. In fact,
yes.
One of the houses you found a moonshine still.
Found a moonshine still. That was the first for us. A homemade moonshine still.
A big one too.
Yeah, it was huge.
And
there's no telling how many gallons that thing.
Called ATF, and you're like, "You want this?"
Yeah, I don't think they took it. I can't remember if they did or not. I don't think they did, but that was absolutely a first for us.
Yeah, that's it. So let's talk about Douglas Robinson, because that was the case I went on. So Douglas Robinson was just a name on a list.
Yeah, he's one of many.
And just one of the many. And we went to his mom's house.
You and I went to the mom's house. The other team went to do the actual compliance check on him. And his uncle said, no, he's not been here in a few months. And I think he stole my gun.
Right. That's a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah, that was a red flag. Yeah.
And so we went to his mom's house. A very lovely house.
Yes.
And, quite lovely.
Probably one of the nicest pieces of property I've ever been on, especially on one of these. Yes.
Yeah. No, it was nice. And what are the odds in your experience that a mom will give up their son?
It's probably 50-50 that they'll actually give him up. A lot of moms they won't give their kids up. They won't.
No matter what the crime.
Yeah. Some of them will, but a lot of them just won't do it. I mean, they'll talk to you. This woman, obviously, as we're going to get into, she wouldn't even talk to us. She wouldn't even come out of the bedroom, I don't think. She just stayed in the bedroom and relayed information.
It was the stepdad.
Yeah. A lot of moms are kind of hesitant. So, that's where, as a 30-year police officer, sometimes you can kind of talk to the mothers and the grandmothers and say, hey, it's better if I get him than, a rookie patrol officer that may treat him a little bit different to what I'm going to treat him. So a lot of times you can kind of talk to him, in a human fashion, I guess you'd say, and they'll give a little bit more information.
Right. Do you behave? Here's a question. Do you behave differently on a check-in depending upon the severity of the case? Is it different how you approach one person versus another?
On a compliance op, no, we try to keep them all about the same. I mean, these are very low key operations. So we're not kicking doors in. And we're trying to get information. So we try to keep it low key unless something kind of piques our interest, then we may ramp it up a little bit. But we always start off pretty much the same on every house on these operations here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and they do vary wildly in severity. What was what was Douglas Robinson's charge? Do you remember?
I think he had two original charges. I think one was maybe a statutory rape, and I can't remember what the other one was. He was a two-time offender.
Right. And he was in the wind.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the operation ended that day, and apparently, by the way, we have no sound. We're gonna Derek, let's go out and then we'll come back in to this. Okay.
Okay.
Right now there's no sound.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, you there? Do
Yeah.
we have sound?
I think we could have sound. We were on YouTube, and there was sound, and you have to change the angle of your reorient your phone, my friend. Okay, now you're good.
We good? All right.
We are good. So apparently, let's see if we have sound now. Let's see. Any sound there, Caitlin?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hold on one moment. I'm sorry, everyone. Nope. No sound.
No sound. I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. You know what? We maybe should. I do not know why we're not having any sound. This is. Let's see, because it says like it all says it's coming through, and that is really odd. Well, now apparently it fixed itself.
Okay.
We're good.
Are we rolling?
Hold on one sec. Let me just. Okay, I am told that that we are good.
All right.
Sorry, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. And if you couldn't hear us, you're probably better for it. You're probably better off for it. So let's go back to the Douglas Robinson case. We went, in case you didn't hear, Douglas Robinson was a sex offender on a list, and they were going to his house on the compliance op and checking to see that he lived where he lived. And one team went to where he was supposed to be living, and his uncle said, "Nope, hasn't been here in months." And that was right.
Yes, that's correct.
And that was a problem. So Derek had the address for his mother and knew that he stayed there on occasion. So he and I drove to the house, a beautiful house, and Derek put on a charm offensive. But the mom didn't really want to talk to Derek, but the stepdad seemed to be as helpful as he could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Stepdad was very helpful. He was going back to relay information.
Right.
Mom just wouldn't face us. She would not come out and face us.
And you said that moms don't usually give up their kids.
It's 50-50. And even this one was odd because normally they'll at least talk to us. Even if they're going to tell us, go pound sand, they're still going to talk to us. And they'll lie to us and tell us, "Oh, I don't know where he's at," but she just wouldn't even face us. So
Right. And so, and the day ends, and I go home. The operation ends. They've checked in on a lot of people. I think it was it a more than a 1 day operation? It's a couple
yeah, the
days.
operation was like 2 or 3 days. Yeah, because we
Right.
normally spend about 30 minutes at each house. So
hmm And how did you find out where Douglas Robinson was at the end of the day?
some of it I'm probably not privileged to say
Okay.
how we found it. But we did get some information that his real dad had left him a little bit of property, and it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was very, very rural in a different county.
Right. So you take how many guys to go on this one, especially with information that he stole a gun?
So we had probably about 8 of us, deputy marshals, and also some task force officers that are deputized on our task force. And since we're in a different county, we actually work with Monroe County very well. So I called one of the detectives that I work with a lot down there, and he does the sex offender registry there, and I ran the name by him, and he knew him. So,
hmm
and then that brought out a whole nother. That ramped it up even more. We already knew he had a gun, or we thought he had a gun. Then he told us he's got an open case on him for another kidnapping and rape. Um,
Now
so of course
that
that
now that
information is
that information didn't reach you guys. Why
no.
would you not have known about that? Why wouldn't you have known about that?
Well, it's not going to be an NCIC. There was no warrant. They had done the rape kit.
Explain NCIC.
The Natural Crime Information Center. Everything gets put in NCIC for felony warrants, or it should anyway. Most counties are really good about it. So once it's in NCIC, you can run his name and date of birth and social security number, and it'll pop up if he has a warrant, and if that warrant is uh, extraditable or not. So he had no warrant on him, and he was in the investigation stages of this, so it would not be an NCIC. So he had a rape kit that he had sent off to the lab, to the TBI lab. Of course, it hadn't came back yet, but he said, "Yeah, I've got a case open up on that guy." So once we found out where he might be staying at, we kind of gathered up and drove out there. Of course, it took a little while to get there. Very rural area.
And so you guys
So
get there, and what do you find? You find a trailer?
we found 3 campers, and it was on a hillside, so it was really, really steep going up there. Um, and the detective went with us. So after we're getting out of the cars, I said, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and call um, the ambulance service and have them in a standby mode down here on the street?" Because at this point, everybody in the campers knew we were there. So there really wasn't there's no surprise going in the way we had to go in. So he had the ambulance service like in a hold back pattern on the road. Um, as we kind of walked up this mountainous area to these campers. Of course, the first camper had nothing in it. There was like storage. There was nothing. Second camper, there were 2 people in it. Neither one was him. And then the third camper was a really rundown, just a pop up camper. So we're kind of fanning around, and we took 2 shields. A couple of years ago, we started really training with shields. They're very effective, ballistic shields. So we took 2. So we had 2 shields. 2 guys had shields, and we kind of fanned around the camper, and those 2 guys went to the front door of the camper. And it's like a half door, one door, one's shut, the bottom's shut, and the top's open, and he's sitting in there with a gun to his head. So,
You could see him from the entrance to the trailer?
oh yeah, 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 because it's not the pop-up camper is not very big. So as soon as they
Right.
walked up on the door, it was the top half was open, and they could see in there with it. And of course, they started yelling, "Gun, gun! Put the gun down!" Um, And it went on for quite a while. And I tried to talk to him. I said, "Hey, it's not that big of a deal. It's a failure to register warrant, man. That's all it is." Of course, he knew that he had this other stuff pending. He just hadn't been arrested for it. So when he came back a few times, said, "You know what I'm facing. You don't know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a lot of time." So, and then this went
And
on for several minutes.
and you had talked about when he was, and if you can even show it, when he was had the gun to his head, he was fanning you guys.
Yeah. So it's I guess it's fanning or flagging. So he's got the gun right here, and literally our guys are 5 feet away, and then me and another couple guys are 5 feet behind them behind a tree, um, as our only cover because there's nothing out there but trees, and it literally takes this quick for him to turn the gun on them, and from what I was told at the debriefing, he was turning his head side to side, and so every time he did that, he was pointing the gun at these guys straight ahead.
So you count that as if somebody has the thing and they turn their head, you're aware of it would have to go through his head, but it still could hit you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely could. Yeah, and it could go through his head and hit one of us. Yeah.
Okay.
And those of us on the outside, we couldn't see much inside, but obviously we can shoot right through any kind of camper or trailer with any pistol. So everybody was on the edge at that point.
And then at some point somebody made a decision.
Yeah, the two guys up front, I think it had went on long enough, and he had flagged everybody enough, and it got to the point where he wasn't going to put the gun down, so they each shot one round,
Right.
and both bullets hit him in the chin. So whatever they shot, he dropped the gun, slumped over. Um, they backed away with the shields, and then myself and a couple of the guys went to the camp, went up there and secured the gun and pulled him out. And at that point, the sheriff's detective was already calling EMT. We need you up here now. So they came up with a gurney and loaded him up really quick on the gurney.
So had you not staged the ambulance there, how long would that have taken?
30 or 45 minutes. Yeah, when we were so far out, it would have taken at least 30 to 45 minutes to get there.
So
I think that probably saved his life by doing that.
And it might even and do you also, when you're out that far, is there also potential for a medevac if you needed it?
EMTs thought that they needed it. They could have got it in. Yeah, they could have. There were a couple of fields across the street. They could have landed if they really needed to medevac him out. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also, obviously thinking what if the unthinkable happened with you guys.
Yeah, with us too. Yeah, because you just you never know.
And so that's a very difficult thing. I mean, wasn't there a guy down in I forget, was it Atlanta who had walked into a room? There were some cops with a guy who had a gun to his head, and he walked in, saw the cops in the same room with the guy with the gun to his head, and shot him right off the bat. Did you see that video?
Yeah, I'm sure. I have not seen that, but it doesn't shock me.
And he actually went to jail for a time. I think they let him out, but he was convicted.
Wow. Okay.
And he said, "I was protecting my people," because you just don't think that somebody who has a gun to their head is a threat to law enforcement.
Yes, they're absolutely a threat. Yes. I mean, it takes a split second, a quarter of a second, half a second to turn that gun on us.
Mm-hmm. So that ended that was great. And I think he was convicted, right? On his charges.
Yeah, he was convicted. So, I'm sure he's still in prison right now.
Right. And how often on this out of 10 will you find people not living where they say they're going to live?
I would say out of 10, on every compliance check, we normally have about 15% that are out of compliance, either by not living where they're supposed to be living, um, not giving the sheriff's office the right phone number or email address, because they have to update that stuff every time they come in. So at least 15 to 20% of the people are out of compliance.
Right.
And that's one reason we do these things.
Right. But it seems like these operations around the country, and they're just not run that often. Do you think they are run often enough, or do you think there should be more of these operations?
Oh, we love doing them in East Tennessee. I would have loved to do. I would have done one a month if I had the money and the manpower for it. Because we're taking these guys from the sheriff's office. We're either buying them equipment or we're paying for their overtime. So we're taking them away from their regular duties. So a lot of them just don't have the manpower for it. They don't, and quite frankly, we don't really have the manpower for it either. That's why we're mandated to do 2 of these a year. But we have such a good time doing them, and it's a lot of work that goes behind it. The planning takes way longer than the actual operation. So
right. Yeah, there was a lot of people. There were a lot of people the day I went out with you guys, and is there things that you learned from like the Douglas Robinson when you guys made the approach and everything? Would you have done that differently in hindsight, or that seemed to go the way that you wanted it to go?
Well, other than shooting them, I think it went pretty well. I mean, there was really only one way in, and once we committed to the first camper, he knew we were there, so there was no other way we could have came in that we know of to this place. So I think we were as prepared as we could be, especially with taking 2 shields with us.
Right. Hang on one sec. We're having another technical issue. I'm so sorry, everyone. Do me a favor, chat to us if you can hear us on Facebook and or YouTube. Seeing if somebody comes in. Okay. Well, I am not hearing Facebook is down, unfortunately. Oh, man. I'm sorry, everybody, because this is good stuff. This is very good stuff.
We're just now getting into it.
Okay. YouTube apparently is going fine. So if you can hear us on YouTube, we'll keep going for a little bit. And again, I apologize that we're having this issue. I don't know what the culprit is. But we'll just keep going a little bit. So do you feel like is the sex registry, does that work? Is that still the best thing? Is it strong enough? Is it like, how are people really going to be aware? What's the best way for people to be aware of finding out who's living in their neighborhood?
Well, the sex offender registry, that is the best thing that we have right now. I don't know how you could do it any different unless you just camped outside their door and followed them around, did 24-hour surveillance. What the general public can do is get on the websites. I think there's one called Family Watchdog. You move into a new neighborhood, before you sign that contract, get on Family Watchdog and see who's living around you. That's the number one thing that I would say for parents and families.
Right. And you told me, which I was kind of surprised about, and then you told me why, but a lot of times sex offenders live in the same, they all are clumped together.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that they can't live. If your crime was against a child, you have to be more than 1,000 feet away from a school or a daycare, and that includes a church that has a daycare that's run during the week. So, in the southeast, we have a lot of churches. A lot of churches run daycares. A lot of elementary schools, a lot of schools, a lot of high schools. They can't be within 1,000 feet of any school, and that's property line to property line. So there's only certain areas that they can live in. And you will see a lot of them clumped up in one area, one apartment complex or one neighborhood uh, that's in a safe zone. And whenever you register with your officer, they'll put your address in and see if it's a safe zone. And if it's not, you got to find somewhere else to live.
And do they is it a conscious decision? Do they like think there's strength in numbers type of thing, or is it just we can live here, so we all gravitate to this area?
Yeah, I don't think I think it's a conscious decision to stay in the safe zone, so that they don't get popped for living within 1,000 feet. So
Right.
yeah, a lot of times they don't have a choice. Of it. They have no choice.
Right. And how often are they getting kind of neighbors finding out and kind of forcing them to move? Does that happen a lot also?
I've not really heard of that happening much in Tennessee. I have heard some stories about other states like Louisiana, for example. Um, if you're convicted in Louisiana, then you have to go out of your own pocket. You've got to pay for flyers, and you've got to go to all the neighbors' houses within a certain radius and give them flyers that, hey, I'm a sex offender and I'm going to be living here. So we don't do that in Tennessee, but I know in Louisiana they do that.
Wow. You have to be the one to distribute it?
No, the offender does. The offender does it himself.
Wow. That seems awfully awfully dangerous
It's crazy.
to
Yeah,
I mean, what do
state
you?
laws.
Wow.
Yeah,
And do you have
Louisiana
to
state laws are pretty strict.
right? And I'm imagining, do you have to state what your offense was, or no, or you
Yes,
can just you
yes,
do?
yes.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, yeah. Louisiana's pretty tough on them.
Wow. Yeah, I would say that you know what? That's why they're coming to Tennessee.
Yeah, and I know whenever I was in Atlanta, this is before the sex offender investigations coordinator job ever came open. We had a lot. After Hurricane Katrina, we had a bunch of them that migrated to Atlanta, and put their roots down there. We had to go find a lot of them.
Right. Right. And
I'm gonna turn this light on real quick, Chris.
yes, sir. We want to see we want to see want to see other than the moonshine, what was the still? What's the strangest? I mean, what's the oddest thing that you've seen on a compliance hop?
Oh gosh. Oh man. Have you seen the movie Waterboy?
A time or two.
So I can't remember what county it was, but we went to a house. It was more like a cabin. It was in the middle of nowhere too. Um, and walk in, and there's literally a horse that's in the living room. So you know, we were all like, "What? What is this? Does this horse stay here?" And the guy said, "Yeah, he comes and goes as he pleases. I'll just leave the door open for him."
I mean, now that you say that, I remember it was Steve the donkey in Waterboy.
Steve the donkey. It was a horse. Yeah, that's one of the weirdest things we've ever seen. Uh, and then another one we had an offender, one of our counties up a little bit north of Knoxville, and his crime was against a child. So we walk in, and there's kids' toys everywhere, and there's 4 or 5 kids running around, and we were like, "Whose kids are these?" And he said, "Oh, me and my wife we're foster parents." So yes, so we had to call DCS like right away. I mean, like that. It was probably 10 o'clock at night. We had to call them like at 10 o'clock at night and say, "Hey, you got 4 or 5 foster kids living at this address, and they had to. You got to come get them like right now. This guy's a convicted sex offender, and his crime was against children. So yeah, it was wild.
How does that slip through the system?
We don't know. We have no idea.
Because presumably there's a little background check.
Well, I would think so. I don't know how it slipped through, but yeah, it was. Yeah, we were there for a long time that night, waiting on DCS to come out and clear the kids out and get their clothes, and yeah, it was strange.
Uh, Adrian says that he had a sex offender collecting children's toys that they would purchase at yard sales.
Wow.
Adrian, would he have those, keep those at his house? Okay, we don't know. But yeah, I guess that's well. I was working on a thing with researching a case with HSI on a sex offender, and one of the sex offenders, and this is going to shock you, was a puppeteer for a Christian TV station in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Who used to give rides to and from the station to many kids.
Wow. I mean, you just
yeah.
never know.
I guess that's what it is, right? You just never know.
Every house was an adventure.
That's it. Shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way at all, unfortunately.
Whenever they come in and visit the sheriff's office, once a quarter or once a year, that's a lot of times that's the only time they see these people. So whenever you actually go visit them at their house, I mean, it's a whole nother ball game when you see how they actually live and talk to them on their domain. So, I mean, you see a lot, and
So
it's not
that-
just toys.
right.
I mean, we've seized I don't know how many hundreds of guns and rifles and ammunition. One house in particular, it's one of the first couple of years we started doing this. I think we got over 30 rifles out of one house, just because nobody ever checked it. So
just a lack of manpower, or not a lack of interest in doing these kinds of operations,
I
because
think a
they're
lot of
rare.
it is a lack of manpower. They just don't have the time to go out here and physically check. They may have 75 or 80 offenders in their county, and like I said, a lot of your rural counties, they have an admin person that runs the sex offender registry. So they can't obtain a warrant, or if they get a warrant, they have to get a detective to write the warrant for them and go out and arrest them. But they're not really physically visiting their houses that often, unless they're on probation. Of course, then they get checked a lot on probation. But
Well, yeah. Well, it's obviously an extraordinarily important. There's a lot of things that are important, especially that the marshals do in terms of finding missing children, and obviously crimes against children. That's not even a funded thing. Finding, I mean, not to deviate, but finding missing children is like a collateral duty for the marshals. They're not funded to do it, right?
well, they several years ago, President Obama gave us the authority to assist with critically missing children. So a lot of districts or a lot of SOICs, which were what I was, they didn't have the time to really fool with that. So, but we did. And we ended up working two major cases for the missing kids, Ben Shook and Gary Simpson. So, and those are very stressful cases to work. Even if, the Ben Shook case, I actually got a federal warrant for him. So that ended up turning into a Fed case. But it's like you're running against the clock. You're
Right.
trying to find these. Like that girl was 14. The girl in the other case, the Gary Simpson case, I think she was 8, and that was his niece. So, and he took her, and they were gone for like 8 or 9 days up in the mountains. So, you're working 20 hours a day just trying to find them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are, and I actually spoke to one of the the survivors, and we might do a podcast with her on her case. That's the Ben Shook case, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we'll see that. We are
that's
told
a very
that
interesting case.
we're told July 27th will mark the 20th anniversary of the Adam Walsh Act, which launched the U.S. Marshal Service Sex Offender Investigation Mission.
Okay. Yeah.
So thank you for that, Folk Singer, Project 125. So I am sorry to everybody for the technical difficulties. It's really great info. Derek is fantastic. Aside from the golf conversation, and
you gotta do something in retirement, man. You gotta do something.
Yeah, I know, but you don't only have to do one thing.
Yeah, I've done a few.
So we'll close it out, and I just want to say, obviously, thank you for your 20 years of service, sir, and obviously as a sex offender investigator, doing some really good stuff to keep some pretty bad people in line. So thank you very much. Thanks everyone for hanging in, and I'm so sorry that we had the technical difficulties that we had. So we'll do this again. Thanks very much. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, guys.